First, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming this weekend. APFED exists because of all the members. We serve you. Our mission and vision is that everyone in our population is served to the best that we can do. The 6-food elimination diet is something that my family has lived on, and we are currently have trialed some foods, but we lived on the 6-food elimination diet for quite a while. What is the 6-food elimination diet? You heard yesterday about a lot of the therapies that are used for eosinophilic diseases, and especially eosinophilic esophagitis. But the 6-food elimination diet is a diet therapy. It is utilized for patients that test negative to all food allergy testing. It eliminates milk, eggs, soy, wheat, peanuts. That also includes tree nuts and seafood/fish. Some practical tips, and key points that I'm going to address in my talk is awareness, support, being realistic, and preparation. And you wonder how all those tie together. Awareness. Awareness that it's a therapy option. It's one of the things that families are going to be utilizing to treat the eosinophilic disorder. This therapy will impact the whole family. That's an awareness that most of the time, if you're an adult who has the disorder, you think it's only you, but it affects the people you socialize with. It affects the people you live with in your home. If you're a child, it affects the siblings. It affects the parents. It affects people that are in your extended family and your friends that you may have socialized with prior. One of the things in awareness is that you have to educate people, not only yourself and your family, but others that are around you. Another key point is there will be a lot of trials and errors. We all want to succeed, as my husband will tell me sometimes when I leave for work in the morning. Try not to be too perfect today, because I strive to do the best that I can, and we all do. But there will be times when you're doing any therapy, especially this one, that requires you to read labels and to look at the foods that your child takes in and that you take into your home, that you will make some errors in that. And another awareness is it's costly. It's the same as similar to buying formula. You're going to have to be ordering special foods from companies. There's shipping charges. Sometimes you feel like you're paying double what everyone else is paying for food. And it requires flexibility on everyone's part, family members, friends, and in our situation, it was my daughter who was going into adolescence, realizing that we couldn't stop at a restaurant on the way to a soccer game or coming back. Another key point is support. It's not easy to be on an elimination diet. So if you've ever done anything, you realize that most of the time you take a friend with you, or you've asked a family member, can you go with me? I'm going to go do this new thing. It's the same with the diet. You need people who will support you. That may be in your home and it may be outside your home. You're going to educate your family and friends about what it means to be on the diet so that gains that support. And as many of you will say, and I've heard it over the years and I've said it myself, there are just some people who won't get it. You have meetings with your family. That was one important thing that our family had developed, was just that we had to do a lot more planning than we had done before. It was so much easier before having to be on the diet to just quickly go and say, what are we going to have tonight? Well, that quickly went out of our lives. Communication is essential. I can't stress that enough. Most of the time we try to protect each other so we don't talk. Talking to each other is very important. And sometimes the things that we talk to each other about may not be what we want to hear, but it's something that is important. Join a support group in your area or start a new one. So if there's not one there and you're waiting for one and you need it, there's people out there in different forums. Find that. It's there for you. Consider family counseling. That was one of the best things that our family had done. One, because my background's a nurse and I do value that there are always better ways of coping. And even being a healthcare worker, I realized too that one of my biggest stressors was that being a healthcare worker, I couldn't fix it. So that was very difficult and a lot of pressure on myself. Before starting the diet, I had already made an appointment to meet with a counselor for our whole family, and that included Grandma, because she was around our kids all the time. So we all had to be able to learn to communicate and find out, do we have good coping skills, and is there any suggestions for some better ways that we can do things? Okay. And remember, you're not alone. This weekend, I hope that everyone has found someone or some connection that has helped them. I was reminded on Friday night by a young lady who was just newly diagnosed, and that kind of made me feel like, you know, this is why we do what we do. This is why we have tireless nights as we're getting these conferences together, that someone needs somebody. So you're not alone, and these conferences are helpful for that. And sometimes, as my picture depicts, you feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders. Being realistic. There's no perfect way to live this diet. And I share this story every year, but I was a learning curve for me. I decided, because on this diet it's very hard to get a bread, but we have the tapioca bread out there from Energy that the hotel took upon themselves to purchase for our patient population. I decided I was going to make a bread because I wanted my son to have a sandwich. And I learned that rapid yeast is always the best, extra rapid yeast. Waited 3 hours late at night to only find out I built a brick. So, but I almost gave up and said, nope, I got that machine just for him. We're going to try again. So, experiment, include the whole family. Some of our triumphs, and something I tell most people, is that the gift that we received from this therapy, and even from eosinophilic disorder, is the gift of gratitude. We took a lot of things for granted. I wouldn't say we weren't an appreciative family, but we learned that small things counted. When I finally made a bread and my son put his turkey or chicken on it and he had a sandwich, was like the greatest thing. It was a thing that made me glow for days. To someone else, it would have not meant anything, but for me, it made the world a difference. And my son said, I finally have a sandwich. Remember to praise yourself for the everyday triumphs of living with this disease. It's hard. It's very hard, not only for the patient dealing with it, but for every single family member. Your life has changed. And the one thing that our family has said to each other is that we learn to see each other differently. We learn to be appreciative. Accidents happen, but learn from them and move on. I can't stress that enough, that there will be accidents, and how we approach that makes a big difference. So live in the here and now, because sometimes the future is just so overwhelming and the past has already happened. Preparation. Communication is key. That you'll see that on all my slides. Ask to speak to managers when you go out to eat. A lot of times you'll find that you have a waitress, they may just still be in high school. They may have no idea what it's like to have a child. They may have no idea what it's like to have an allergy, or may not even know anyone. So ask to speak with a manager if you're going to go out to eat. And yes, you can go out to eat on the top 6 food diet. Talk with school personnel for your child. That's not an easy thing. I've heard numerous stories that you have some people who are very willing to work with you, but keep trying. You'll find some key people in your community that can help you with that. Speak with your coworkers if you're an adult. All you need is one person. You don't need everyone that you work with, but just one person who understands when you're wanting to go out to lunch that you may be packing your lunch and you may just be eating outside and not going out to eat. Plan ahead. That's very key. Take your safe foods when you're going anywhere. You may not use them. One thing that we used to take with us was always our Fleshman butter. Fleshman light butter. We'd always have it in the cooler no matter where we went, so we could get a baked potato and just put our own butter on it. So there were times we didn't need that. But call your restaurants or hostess of parties and ask what they have on their menu. Most of the time when you call your friends, I don't know if any of you have dealt with that, they were so worried, how can I prepare this for you? That wasn't what we were looking for. We were looking to supplement maybe something that they had. If they had cantaloupe and we could have cantaloupe, that's great. We got the fruit covered. We'll bring the rest of the stuff. So once we released them of that fear that they had to provide everything, it usually turned out well. You will be able to leave the house, but preparation is key. Remember, if you have a child with a disease, to discuss this with them ahead of time. So if you're going out somewhere to eat, I know one of the things, especially at school age, they have anxiety. They think, what does this mean for me? Am I going to sit there and watch everyone eat? So you might prepare them, if you know you're going somewhere that they're maybe having pizza, or they're having one of your kids' favorite foods, maybe an escape word that you both know is key, so that not everyone has to know that this is kind of hard for them. So planning ahead to discuss what those escape words are for each of you. Create a card or a list to give to restaurants, explain what your child or you need to avoid. So if you're an adult, you can also have that. I remember I used to sit at a restaurant and say, well, if you make the chicken, you got to clean the pan first. You have to do this, you have to do that. Can you do that? And my son said, why don't you just make a card, because you say the same thing every time. So, words of wisdom. And the key thing that I always think of, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And my daughter did that. Did you like that? She said, your slides are boring, Mom. So, thank goodness she's techno savvy. What can I do what can I or my child eat? Focus on what you can have and not what you cannot have. This was a key thing of one of the mothers on many years ago now, who said to me one day when I was crying at my computer and thought, how am I going to feed my child? How is he going to be nutritionally sound? All those things that went through my head. Is my child going to grow? Is he going to, grow up and be healthy? Is he going to have any problems because he's on this limited diet? So that weight of all that pressure was on myself, my husband, our whole entire family, to be creative. And I'm not that creative with cooking in the first place. So that was very difficult reality for us. But the person I spoke with said, if you focus on what you can have, it'll be so different. And that was key to our success. Concentrate on whole foods. I started reading every book out there on whole foods and allergy-free books, and was amazed how much I had learned. Speak with your registered dietitian about other options you may have not explored. That is kind of a tricky situation. You want to make sure when you are seeing a dietitian that they understand the disorder, they understand eosinophilic disorders and the elimination diet. And you can speak with your healthcare provider who may have some references. Learn about the hidden names of the top 6 allergens. This is so key. My son can pronounce words that I still stutter over. He reads his own labels. We double check. But he's now 12. He started the diet when he was 7 or 8, but was able to read those hidden ingredients. And that also helps with exploring new food choices. Discuss with your child to identify the safe foods. The identifiers will mean that the labels have been read and all the ingredients are safe. When we first started, it was very important for us to have my son quickly identify what has been checked, so we're not rechecking it all the time in our own home. We put big smiley faces on all of them. You can do certain stickers, so that when your child is looking for something, especially if they're school age, if they're infants, you have total control of that. But when they're school age, they will go scurrying around the house looking for things to eat. We sat down and talked with our son about if it has a smiley face on it. And I actually gave him the marker after we checked it so he could put his own smiley face. I gave him some control. Then he knew those were safe foods. The one thing I stress is that even though you've checked the labels, if you go back out shopping, reread those labels. Those labels can change. They may have started using a different company. Once it comes into your home, you've checked the labels, then you can identify the food with a smiley face, a sticker, whatever you and your child have agreed on. So, be aware of cross-contamination and educate your family. One of the things, my husband was used to going to the deli and getting meat sliced. Well, they may have sliced the cheese on that same slicer. So we started getting prepackaged foods that we knew were not used on another machine. And also you'll find restaurants, if you've asked for a hamburger and you say no bun please, and you're paying the same price, they feel compelled to give you a bun. If you say I don't want the bun, they try to take the bun off and give you the meat. So you go, no, 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 let's start from scratch. So there's a lot of education and cross-contamination. Our family purchased an extra toaster when I finally was able and capable of not making bricks any longer, and we were toasting the bread. We chose one that was very distinct. It was a black toaster because our normal one was white, and that toaster was only used for his toast in the morning. And we still use that one for his non-allergen foods. So yeah, for his allergen-free foods. So that was a very helpful thing, so that I didn't have to worry about cross-contamination. Designate a certain area in your house for the safe food. My son has grown now, so we don't need to have that designated place, but it was very helpful in that learning process. We had a certain area in our dining room with a little plastic Rubbermaid bins, and they were all placed in there that he had easy access to that. So it made it where he felt independent. He felt that he could get to his foods a lot easier than saying, Mom, I need some of my food, and that he felt like he was a part of the family. Again, focus on what you can have and not what you cannot have. Things that as I said before, I looked through a lot of cookbooks looking for different options, and I was amazed that I could actually cook. It was just surprising because I thought with all the limitations, there's no way I can make a good meal. And that's what really spurred my work with helping with the cookbook that we did for APFED, because there are a lot of options out there. And Brad Evans, who's not here this weekend, was just phenomenal in the different recipes that he shared with me, because he just knew how to put a few simple things together and made it taste good. One of the recipes my son liked was the rice-a-roni one. I don't remember who gave that recipe, but that was just like the best food for him. Explore the spices of life, which we were not very good at, but we became better at because that was our only options. Experiment with new recipes. There's a lot of great allergy cookbooks out there. That's how I got one of the bread recipes, but it was also some of the things where I made molasses cookies. I thought they were wonderful, and my kids who didn't have allergies loved them more, so I had to make double batches. Include your child in the process. My son was able to cook with us, so when it was his food, we had him measuring up things, because those were things that he was safe to have. Create your own cookbook. One of the things we did, because I kept losing recipes and didn't want to lose them because I had finally learned how to make them, we got a binder with page protectors, and every time we found a recipe that we were successful, we'd place it in there. It was really nice because at the end it became a cookbook. So every time we wanted to cook something that he liked, we opened up our binder, and we gave him stickers. We let him decorate the outside of it, and it became his cookbook. So he always liked that, and my daughter didn't like that because he had a special one. So a positive attitude is contagious. Your children and the people around you, they sense what you feel. And so having a good outlook, even if you're making bricks in your bread maker, it's going to get better. My son, I remember him coming up, "It's okay, Mom, you gave it a good try." So which made me want to try even harder. So hidden names. One of the things I cannot stress, more is that knowing those hidden ingredients. And what I did in our family was I created one for the car, because that went with us to the grocery store after I learned a couple times calling my husband, what is the hidden name for so-and-so? So I started putting it in the car when I went grocery shopping. I also created a laminated one to put on the refrigerator, so that when I was preparing something and I wasn't quite sure if I remember that way meant this, that I could look and make sure that that was also safe for him. I think I've already kind of went over those. Make several copies. I actually took one to Grandma's house because he would go to Grandma's house too. Okay. This was a little card I made up that we were giving to restaurants at the urging of my son, who's wonderful at thinking of things. And I also gave them a resource to go to, that if they're kind of wondering, you know, my son's not the only one with this disorder, maybe a child following behind us or an adult, they would know, oh yeah, we've heard of that. How to get out of the rut. Eating the same thing every day. Has anyone ever dealt with that? No, I'm sure not. Experiment, get online. Places like Kids with Food Allergy was one that we utilized. It does require a membership, but it was well worth it in the end because I could put in there the things that he could not have, so all I saw was the recipes that didn't contain those allergens. I just got online recently as I was preparing for this talk, and there's an online store called allergyfreeshop.com. I spoke with the owner. It was created because of the multiple allergies that his family members have. In the way that you shop on there is you tell them, they give you choices of the things you're wanting to eliminate. So you don't even see the products that contain the things that you have. So they're still working on that website. And he did assure me that if you say you're from APFED, he gives 10% off. Purchase the APFED cookbook developed by the members of APFED living with EGIT every day. Those were wonderful things. And actually, when I was getting the recipe, he said, oh, we get to have something new for dinner. Check out gluten-free cookbooks, especially there's a lot of options for wheat-free breads and other things like that. Reach out to others who have been through it and get it. And that's what this weekend also provides all of you, is that there's people who may not be on the same therapy, but they understand the challenges. You'll find this in the back of your book, a lot of the resources out there, Kids with Food Allergy, FAN. They were gracious enough to allow us to put that in our cookbooks. Enjoy Life Foods. I have some pretzels in the back, but I do warn you that you need to read the ingredients, and if it has your allergen, do not consume it. Consume at your own risk. But Energy Products had given us some samples back there to check, and my son lived off those pretzels. It was a wonderful thing for our family. There's APFED Challenge the Cook article that's now in our newsletters, and I'm excited about that. I wish we would have had that 5 years ago when I was very challenged. So please send in your questions to her, challenge her. I'm sure she would appreciate that. Okay. And then, as you see, there were some helpful books that I had used that I think will be helpful if you're on the diet. And one of the things that I live by every day, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. And I want to thank you all for being here and giving us your time.